and thank you for joining this last session. My name is Richard Griffiths. I'm very honored to be here today. By trade, I work for an international law firm, Aaron Fox, but today at this last panel, we're going to be speaking about the Commonwealth. This is really an exciting panel for me. I was thrilled to be invited to come and talk about it. In facts and figures, the Commonwealth has a combined population of 2.5 billion. 60% of that is 29 years age and under. It's a very young population. I think we all understand that the Commonwealth bloc represents an extremely vast, untapped market for trade, for investment, and it's an extremely powerful group of nations that represents 54 countries, 20 of which Africa, 8 Asian, 3 in Europe, 11 in the Pacific, and 13 in the Caribbean, so extremely diverse. Myself, I'm a son of the Caribbean, of the Commonwealth. I was born in South Africa, raised in Canada, and then returned back to the UK, so I really understand the Commonwealth very well. It's had a huge significance in my life. I'm also blessed that I've been able to travel and see many, almost all countries within the Commonwealth. Firstly, I'd like to introduce the Right Honourable Patricia Scotland, the 6th Commonwealth Secretary General, who will be giving her remarks on the Commonwealth. Also, Manoj Ladwa, the founder of the Indian Global Forum. We also have joining us from virtually, we have the Foreign Minister of the Gambia, His Excellency Mamadou Tangera. Do we have the Antigua and Barbuda? Okay, we'll wait for that. Baroness Scotland, let me start with you. The Commonwealth is a crucial organization, in particular post-COVID in this very, very unique environment that we find ourselves. It's a broad question. But how do you see the Commonwealth being a driver for economic recovery and revitalization as an organization? How do you see the future of the Commonwealth, and what's the direction you see for the Commonwealth in the years to come?
Well, firstly, to say that I think we've never needed the Commonwealth more. Because, as you've said, Richard, the Commonwealth represents 54 different nations from 5 different continents and seas. Big ones, small ones, landlocked ones, rich ones, poor ones. And it presents a unique opportunity for countries to come together and to not only look at what joins them, but also the common problems. And if you look at our Commonwealth, we discovered way back in 2015 that there was something of unique value amongst us. Because we share the same language, the same parliamentary structures or similar, the same legal structures, institutional structures. Way back in 2015, we discovered that there was a 19% Commonwealth advantage, by which I mean that it was cheaper, faster, easier for us to work together and to trade with one another. Now, since 2015, that's increased to more than 21%. Cheaper, easier, faster, but in addition, we invest 27% more in our Commonwealth countries, each other, than others. And when we were looking at what that translated into, we saw that we had real gold. It built in some resilience. So before COVID, we had increased the intra-Commonwealth trade to almost 700 billion. And the Commonwealth leaders set themselves a target of reaching 2 trillion intra-Commonwealth trade by 2030. Now, huge things have happened as a result of COVID. We've lost more than 345 billion in terms of economic loss over this period, and we've stymied or stalled that Commonwealth advantage, but it hasn't slipped very much. And what we've looked at is that there's a real possibility that we will get back to the 700 billion intra-Commonwealth trade by next year. So having lost that 345 billion, we're thinking, how do we recoup it? And what we see is by Commonwealth countries working together, you can do it, there is resilience and there's opportunity. And there are two areas which have been particularly interesting. One is that the WTO Trade Facilitation Agreement. Now, we're all looking for new trade deals, but there's an opportunity for us to create mirrored procedures, have a level of interoperability which will enhance our Commonwealth opportunities to get us there much more quickly. And all the research, we've just produced a report, which I hope everyone will find interesting, about digitalization and how we use digitalization to turn that around. So I think there is huge opportunities for us, because when we looked at how everyone else was doing, we saw right at the core that this was an opportunity, not just a problem. And particularly if you look at India, India has been incredibly good at innovation, but frugal innovation. And many of the small and developing states are looking at India and thinking, maybe we can't innovate as others, but using that brilliance that has come like a shining diamond, and India's belief and generosity in sharing that intellectual property, the combination could be quite startling. And so, although, of course, this period has been a trauma for so many of us, there are lights, and the Commonwealth advantage is a real star.
Baroness Scotland, I think a lot of what you were speaking about resonates in terms of trade. The Commonwealth being a trade organization or akin to a trade organization. And that's something I've heard a lot about. Can you expand a little bit more on how you see that in this new environment, and does that almost breathe new relevance and new life into what the Commonwealth really can be in terms of a global force?
I think it's one of the most important things about the Commonwealth is we share common values. So if you look at those common values which are inculcated into the Commonwealth Charter, they basically reflect the Sustainable Development Goals. So if we look at the future, we know that we're going to have a blue and a green future. We know that we are going to have to understand how we can deal with issues like anti-corruption. If you look at the money we have and the money we need, the sum difference between those two is the sum equivalent to that which is siphoned off by corruption. So our 54 member states have got together, and the law ministers in 2019 agreed that we would come up with an anti-corruption benchmarks, both for public sector and private sector. And they are now being implemented as we speak. And one of the first countries looking at the implementation is going to be in Trinidad. But just think about it. If we have all our businesses and all our multilateral agencies and our countries dealing with these issues in a similar way, a mirrored way, we can get there faster, cheaper, easier, but more resilient. And if you look at our markets, there are many, many in the world who do not share our values, who do not believe in the rule of law, who do not play the game, who do not respond in the way that we and our values really give voice to. So there is an opportunity now for those of us who do believe in the rule of law, who do commit to doing business in a robust and fair way, to make that our advantage. Because we can now say, and this is what we're doing in the Secretariat, how can we make those rules easier? So the Commonwealth is looking at helping to introduce the African Free Trade Area. And you'll know that Ghana is responsible for bringing in those modalities. Well, if we can help bring in those modalities, which will be used by everyone, you can make it even cheaper, even faster, even easier. If we are able then to have mirrored procedures, not just with the African Free Trade, Continental African Free Trade Area, but also use the WTO trade facilitation and make them all mirrored and all interoperability, you get certainty, you get security, and you get efficiency, effectiveness, and huge increase in markets. Because when we're talking to business, they say they want certainty. If you've got a multinational business and you are doing a business in 54 countries, think of the boon if the rules are the same, if the standards are similar, if you can have one set of provisions which will help you in every single market that you're dealing with, you're going to save a huge amount of money. And what we're seeing also is that efficiency, that effectiveness and that fairness is going into legislation. So in the Commonwealth, we are drafting Commonwealth framework agreements, Commonwealth framework legislation, Commonwealth framework regulatory structures. Now, nobody has to adopt this, but why wouldn't you when you've got millions of dollars of, and we're both lawyers, of free legal capital, where you will say that all our judges will say A will mean A, B will mean B. So most of our businesses want security and certainty. And so if you've got a market which is using the same rules in the same way, if judges and lawyers and implementers are all doing it in the same way, you're into bat. And I think this is a very exciting time. And I've been saying that the world is facing some Goliath-like problems. And I see our role in the Secretariat is to create the perfectly weighted stone or stones for David's sling. So we need to take all those Goliaths and bring them down. And I think we can, but only if we work together. And that's the great thing about our Commonwealth. We are working together, and we like it.
Well said, well said. And I really am encouraged to hear your thoughts on rule of law and anti-corruption. And many of the countries in the Commonwealth are developing economies, and they need that shining light to go towards. And I appreciate that those comments.